Hey everyone, it is Monday. It's a beautiful Monday, a moon day. And because it's moon day, it is a perfect time to talk about something that is in what we would consider in the feminine principle, which is our intuition. Most of us do associate that with the feminine principle. We even have that phrase, the feminine intuition. And I would argue that, in fact, we all have an intuition, just as we all have a feminine principle, and that we can do things, we can take steps, we can have practices in order to sharpen our intuition. I'm Julie Balderrama, and I am a dream coach. I help visionaries and change makers harness the gifts of their inner knowing or their intuition and creative insight and healing medicine that comes to us in our sleeping dreams at night in order to really influence the collective waking dream, in order to influence waking life. So I'm so glad that you're here with me. I see that there are some people watching live. That's fantastic. If you are watching live, I love thumbs up. I love hearts. It helps me know that you're really digging what I'm saying and you're getting into it. If you just jumped on and you want to say hi to me, I love it when people say hi as well. And if you're watching the replay, all of that is super nice too. I get alerted whenever you make comments or whenever you give me a thumbs up or a hearts. And so it's just really nice. It's affirmation that I'm bringing something of value. So if this does feel like it's valuable to you, then please do just hit the heart, hit the like, or the thumbs down if you want to, or leave a comment. Okay. So today we are talking about sharpening your intuition. We're talking about the steps that you can take to develop your intuition, and also what gets in the way of listening to your intuition, acting on, or even the clarity. So sometimes the clarity of our intuition, is that my intuition or is that my resistance? So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, and how to remove those obstacles, what is getting in the way of the intuition. Okay, so let me know if you're watching the replay or if you're watching live. You can drop a comment. What's your relationship with your intuition? Is it something that is very well developed and you have a system worked out for listening to your intuition? Is it kind of hit or miss? Are you completely closed off to the idea that we have an inner knowing, that we have intuition and that it's worth listening to? So just let me know, is it troubled? Like, do you not trust yourself? Do you not trust your intuition? Just let me know what your relationship to your intuition is. So let's talk about what intuition is in the first place. For me, my understanding of it, my experience of it in my life, in the lives of my clients and my students, and in the teachers that I've worked with, when they talk about intuition, we really talk about it as an inner knowing. It's something within us that isn't reliant on external circumstances, external approval, to be true. We don't need to check it out. We just sort of know. And often intuition is associated with the feminine principle, like we talked about earlier. And just like the feminine principle, we all have it, right? So when I'm talking about the feminine principle, I don't mean a woman or a man. I don't mean the body that you're born into. Everyone has a feminine principle. Everyone has a masculine principle, or energy, if you'd like that word better. And so just like everyone having a feminine principle or a feminine energy, everyone also has intuition. And also, just like the feminine principle, intuition is often disregarded, devalued, and denigrated. So when we talk about the feminine principle or we talk about feminine energy, many times we don't value it. We don't honor it. So we're talking about things like stillness, mystery, the unquantifiable. Cultures and people that really value what we can explain and what we can quantify over the mysterious and the unquantifiable are are people who are undervaluing or devaluing or denigrating the feminine principle. They're not putting it on the same level as equal to the masculine principle. So we've all had those moments, right, where we've experienced some kind of deep inner knowing, where we've had, something. It's usually a physical sensation in our body. The hairs in the back of our neck stand up, or we have a gut feeling. There's no coincidence that when we say we have a gut feeling, it is actually a feeling in our gut that kind of points us in one particular direction or another. It points us away from something, or it points us towards something. Some of us feel it as a heart, something in the heart. It's like a heart opening or a heart closing. And so there's a variety of different ways that you can feel your intuition. And I'd love to know, for those of you that are watching live, how you feel your intuition. And just let me know, like, where is it in the body, or how do you know that it's your deep inner knowing and it's not something else? So, I do, even if we do have troubled relationships with our intuition, we have those moments, right, where we couldn't explain it, but we knew something, right? We knew something at a gut level, at a heart level. We knew something that was coming from within, rather from without. And so we may, have said, like, oh, I knew who was calling before I even answered the phone, or I knew to take an alternate route to work, but I couldn't explain how I knew that. So it's something that happens that comes from a deep inner knowing that you can't quite explain to anybody else. And actually, maybe you've tried to explain it to people in the past, and they either made fun of it, or hopefully they didn't, but sometimes it gets shut down. Sometimes our intuition gets shut down because we talk about how we followed that gut feeling, we followed that intuition. And people who are particularly not in tune with the feminine principle and not valuing the feminine principle may try to shut that down. So I'd love to know your experiences with your intuition. Did you ever have one of those moments where you didn't take the job that on paper seemed like the perfect job for you, but there was just sort of a vibe that didn't quite gel? And maybe you even had reactions from people in your life that were like, why didn't you take that job? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you did do something and it didn't really work out the way that you had hoped, or worked out in a particular way that you were like, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have done that thing. I shouldn't have taken that job, or I shouldn't have trusted that person, or I knew it. So let me know what your experiences are with your intuition. Those are always really fun stories to hear. So Sonia Choquette she teaches about intuition. She's written a lot of books about intuition. And she talks about 4 things that you can do to sharpen or develop your intuition. And the first is that you want to be open to it. You want to be open to the idea that you contain a deep inner knowing that can guide you in your decision making, that you actually have within you everything that you think that you need externally. You have within you the answers. So many times we get lost in confusion, and we get lost in the idea that we don't know, and we seek out external advice and support. And that can be really, really helpful. I would argue, though, not at the expense of your own gut feeling and your own inner knowing. So first of all, be open to it. Be open to the idea that you have within you the answers that you seek. You have within you a guiding principle that can help you make decisions in your life and come up with solutions. Expect it. So even though we're open to it, sometimes we don't have the trust, right? We don't have the trust, the foundation of trust laid out, where we expect that our intuition wants to help us out. It wants to guide us. It wants to show us the way. And I'll talk a little bit about why, or what gets in the way of that expectation in just a minute. And then 3, trust it. So again, we're talking about that trust. And we trust it by developing a relationship with it. So it's sort of a give and take. It's not a one and done sort of deal. I like to think about when I'm working with my clients especially, and we develop a plan for realizing whatever goal that they have. I like to think about these as experiments. I'm going to try this thing and then I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to gather the data back and then I'm going to decide what I do with that data. So we can get into a space where we're like wanting to trust our intuition, and we sort of make, it's a make or break kind of deal. I'm going to trust my intuition in this one particular instance, and if it doesn't come out exactly the way that I hope that it would, I'm done. No, it's a development. It's a relationship that we're developing. And so one of the ways that you can develop your relationship with your intuition is when you get a hunch about something, when you get a nudge, write it down. And it's sort of like keeping a scientific journal. So you're going to write it down when you get a hunch or when you get a nudge, when you get an inner knowing, some kind of little push in a particular direction, so that you can see what happens when you either follow it or don't follow it. And then, of course, you would write down what happens after that as well. So write it down. If you're not going to write it down, at least speak it out. Speak it out into the room, into the universe. You can speak it to a friend. Again, you might want to choose a friend who is supportive rather than someone who's going to try to shut you down. But it helps you remember that you had those nudges in the first place, because again, we're going to talk about the obstacles that come up, and one of those obstacles is not remembering, or confusion, or not being in that relationship, that give and take relationship with your intuition. And then act on it. So be open to it, number 1. Expect it, number 2. Trust it by developing a relationship with it. That's number 3. And number 4, oh, thank you so much for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Number 4, act on it. So our intuition can't do a whole lot for us if we don't act on it, if we don't take the action that it's asking us to take. Sometimes it's non-action. Sometimes it's, sit this one out. Don't go that direction. So sometimes the action is the non-action, but it is still honoring the intuition. So here's the thing about intuition. Again, because it's associated with the feminine principle or feminine energy, it requires space. It requires space and trust. So that means that, especially as you're developing your intuition, you're sharpening your intuition, we've got to stop the busy. We've got to create some space, some quiet, some stillness for that inner knowing, that little voice to bubble up inside, to get through all of the mind chatter that's going on, right? So that's going to require that we cut out the busy work, which often is really just a distraction for us because we're feeling some sort of resistance. I'll talk more about that in just a second. Stop trying to fix it and to figure it out, and to get the answers immediately. We're uncomfortable, right, with mystery. Most of us are uncomfortable with mystery until we really develop and sharpen our relationship with our intuition. And so we're looking for, we're jumping to the first answer instead of being willing to really sit with the question, really being able to and willing to let it unfold, allow an unfolding as opposed to jumping immediately to an answer. So for me, like I said, I work with dreams. I'm a dream coach, and sharpening my intuition, helping my clients sharpen their intuition. I love the vehicle of dream work for being able to do this. So dreams come to us every single night with gifts, sometimes multiple times a night. They're nuggets of wisdom. They are from that deep inner knowing. They're from that inner wisdom inside of us. And they offer us these creative insights. They offer us these paths to healing the relationship between our inner knowing and our conscious mind, and they bring you nuggets to be able to sharpen your intuition. And they, just like your intuition, they ask that you do something with the gifts that they bring you every single night. They ask that you act on them, that you honor the dream in some way. So same thing, right? We want to receive the dream, meaning we want to write it down, or we want to tell it to somebody, share it with a dream sharing circle, share it with a dream coach. We want to receive the dream. And expect that the dream is coming for our healing and it's coming for the benefit of us. Even nightmares, which I'll do a Facebook Live on nightmares in the future sometime soon. So all dreams come in service of healing. So we expect that. We expect that our dreams are coming to us in service of our healing, in service of our inner knowing. We want to trust it. We want to trust that the wisdom that's coming through is from our inner knowing, is from our intuition. Now, dreams, of course, speak in symbol and metaphor, and so figuring out, and again, this is where you want to develop that relationship with your dreams, because figuring out what the language is, your particular language with your dreams, being willing to sit with the questions instead of immediately going to someone else and saying, hey, what does my dream mean? Being willing to tease that out for yourself. That being said, it is super helpful to have other people help you with that, because as long as we're all on the same page about whose dream it is and whose insight and whose inner knowing we're trying to tap into, but they can help you see what you can't see. We all have blind spots, right? So even as my vision is facing forward, I have these blind spots, not with the camera on, but around me and behind me. And so having a dream sharing circle, or even having a dream coach, can help with those blind spots, right? It can kind of help you see what you don't see in your conscious mind. And we don't see those things because our conscious mind is trying to protect us. So we want to act on the dream as well. We want to act on what the dream is bringing us. Now, here's what gets in the way sometimes. What gets in the way sometimes is self-doubt, right? And that can show up in a variety of different ways. That can show up as confusion, like I don't know what the dream is asking me to do, or I don't know what my intuition is telling me. It can show up as procrastination. So even if you identify when you have a dream, okay, this is the action that I'm going to take, you don't ever actually do it. You don't ever take the action. You procrastinate, or you ignore it, or you get wrapped up in busy work, or you get distracted, or you fall into one of your addictions. We all have addictions. There are ways of numbing out when things are hard and uncomfortable. And so, this self-doubt can create these sensations in your body that sometimes make following or acting on your intuition uncomfortable. It can kind of even distort the message sometimes. And so what is it that we can do to work with that self-doubt so that we can trust our intuition, we can sharpen that intuition even more? Well, I feel like being willing to have an experimental attitude, to keep your word to yourself when you act on your intuition, when you speak it out to the world, or you write it down, that you actually act on it. You keep your word. Now, most of us are pretty familiar with a particular, we have pretty strong beliefs, particular beliefs about keeping our word to other people. But when it comes to keeping our word to ourselves, sometimes we, unfortunately let that go by the wayside. And that can be sort of an interrupt between, or a barrier, an obstacle in that relationship of developing your intuition, developing your trust in yourself. So part of keeping your word to me is being willing to be discerning about what it is that you're going to do. So this goes back to, I remember earlier when I said, don't rush to the answer, but really allow a little bit of time to sit with the question and let the knowing, let the true inner knowing bubble up to the surface before you take that action. So instead of just, boom, right out of the gate, I'm going to do this thing, be willing to sit with it for a little bit longer. And when we act on our dreams, when we act on our word, when we act on our commitment to ourselves or a commitment to honor the intuition or honor the dream, no matter what happens, right? It's an experimental attitude. We're not saying that if I do this thing that I am expecting a particular outcome, but we do this thing and we ask ourselves, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. And we track that. We track that either by writing that down or telling it to someone else. And that is that give and take between your inner knowing and your ego mind of trusting your intuition. So I want to talk to you briefly about a program that I'm offering. It's called Dreamcatcher, and it is a 6-month program that helps you sharpen your intuition through doing dream work. I love this offering so much because it is designed really to be a really lovely introduction into some serious dream work or sincere dream work. And at the same time, it can also just fit in very nicely with any coaching or training or teaching or therapy program that you might already be in. It just deepens your experience of the process as it is. And I've designed it in such a way to make it easy for you to either dip your toe into dream work and or to complement another healing modality or another program that you might be already involved in. And the way that I've designed that is that we actually keep a shared dream journal, and you write down your dreams in this dream journal that we share, and I go in and I've given you prompts for being able to dig into your dreams, but I go in and I'm that, that sort of more 360 view to help you see perhaps anything that doesn't occur to you, or to offer any insight that I see, or to point you in a direction that maybe I see that you haven't explored yet. So there's a constant dialogue that's going on between us, but it really happens at your pace. It happens at the pace that works for you in your life. And then once a month, we have a call. And that particular call isn't designed to go into your dreams any further. We've already done that work, but that call is designed to help you figure out what action you're going to take, or if you have been taking action, how to weave in the wisdom, the creative solutions, the healing, the insight that your dreams have brought you into your waking life so that you can influence your waking life. You can make a contribution to the collective with your healing, with your insight. You can get more information about my Dreamcatcher program by following the link that's in the description. I'll put it in the details as well. I'm taking 6 more people. I've opened it up to 7. One spot's already filled, so I'm opening it up to 6 more people. I am really excited about working with people who are visionaries and who are change makers in the world, who are really looking to make a difference, make an impact on the world, and want to do it from a place of a deep inner knowing, of a trusting in themselves. Thank you so much for giving me your time today, for listening. I look forward to reading the comments from you later about your intuition and your relationship with your intuition. And I look forward to talking to some of you about joining my Dreamcatcher program. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.